What's up, everyone? Here to bring you another video. It's your boy NornRad89 here discussing one of my favorite topics to talk about, and it's Friday the 13th. This is my all-time favorite horror franchise of all time, and today we're going to be discussing Part 7, Part 8, and Part 9 specifically, kind of continuing my Friday the 13th videos that I've been doing, kind of going in the grouping of threes, and this is kind of the transitional period because it's the last two Paramount films and then our first ever New Line Cinema release produced film. So like I said, we're going to be talking about the transitional period of the Friday the 13th franchise. So let's do this. Roll it. So Friday the 13th Part 7, A New Blood. Yes, this is one that I really wanted to talk about, and I'm excited to talk about because as a child, this one I wasn't that big on. This is one of those Friday the 13th films that over years and over time, rewatches of the franchise, marathons, and just growing up and how my opinions have changed since a child, this one is one of my favorites now. It just keeps climbing the list, and rest in peace, Lar Park Lincoln. We really love you and miss you. She was the final girl in this one. She played Tina Shepard, or the older version of Tina Shepard, and she was fantastic in this film. And like I said, as a child, I didn't really take to her performance. I didn't like the whole Carrie versus Jason Voorhees type storyline thing they had going on, and Dr. Cruz in this movie. There was just a lot of elements that I didn't enjoy. And then just as an adult and rewatching it over and over, and as a teen, it grows on me more and more. And actually, this is the first appearance of Kane Hodder as Jason Voorhees, who was an actor who would end up playing him multiple times. So Kane Hodder, really fun that he came into the franchise right here in this one. And I think this is one of my favorite performances of his. And in terms of the look of Jason Voorhees, by far one of my favorite looks. The reason I love this look so much is when you really see it on screen and everything, it just has the wear and tear. And even when the mask breaks off and the mask comes off in this movie, the face underneath it is fabulous, because sometimes the look of Jason is great, but when they have the mask reveal, because they do that in a few movies, the face isn't as good or as scary. But for me, I think, yeah, New Blood right here has the best looking Jason Voorhees, and in terms of scary factor, I think is the scariest looking one as well. And I think this one has some really fun characters, like I said, like Tina Shepard. We have Dr. Cruz in here, Nick, the love interest of Tina, and also the kind of kids that he is rooming with and, you know, hanging out with, because we have Lar Park Lincoln characters. Tina and her mom and Dr. Cruz are staying in a house, and then we have kind of a group of partying young kids staying at another house, and that's kind of our setup for our characters. And I think it's really fun. I think besides the final chapter and Friday the 13th Part 3, this has my favorite characters in it in terms of the ones that I love to be around. Another thing about this movie I love is that Jason Voorhees gets wild, and I uses the greatest variety of weapons, I think, in this film. Sadly, the kills are kind of edited and chopped down, and really this is when the NPA was really attacking these films and these horror films and just hacking them to death and taking out all the gory moments. And this one, like I said, I think for fun, like the unrated footage of this one is actually lost. If I'm not mistaken, the like unrated stuff for Part 7 is just lost. Like the footage, it cannot be found, or it's destroyed. So which is very, very sad, because I think there's a version of this movie where this could be the best Friday the 13th film if we were to get all the gore moments and all the kill sequences completely unrated. This would probably elevate the film even more, and it would be in my top 3 for sure. But I highly recommend New Blood. I love returning to this one now as an adult, and like I said, definitely one of the best ones in this franchise. Now, next up, we're on to Part 8, which is Jason Takes Manhattan, and famously known for being my least favorite. I wouldn't say this is an awful film. Like, I don't hate this film. It's just in terms of the Friday the 13th franchise, this is clear-cut my least favorite. It's just been that way for years and years now. I don't know why, really, to be honest. It's because my main thing with this one, negative, is that I just don't enjoy the characters. And I think with the Friday the 13th films being so kind of cookie cutter rehash, a lot of them, like I said, I'm a lover of this franchise, but I'm not going to lie, there are some where it's just wash, rinse, repeat, same setting, Jason, new cast of kids. So you really got to get attached to the kids. And in terms of the title of this one, the subtitle, Jason Takes Manhattan, I wanted a more epic taking of New York, Manhattan. Famously, this was filmed in Vancouver, and it's in Canada. That's where they filmed this film. So a lot of the shots aren't even New York. As a matter of fact, I think there's only one shot that's in Times Square, that sequence, because they were only allowed to shoot in Times Square for like a week or something like that. So that's the only scene that is actually in New York. The rest of the film takes place as filming in Vancouver. A lot of this film is on a boat, the Lazarus, so we don't even get to see New York until about the last like 20 minutes of this movie. So yeah, there's just a lot of the elements of this film that I dislike in terms of my love factor of it. So that's what keeps me from loving this film. I do enjoy rewatching this film. I'm not going to stop when I get on a marathon. I'm not going to be like, oh, let's skip part 8. I hate that one. That's not how I feel. I'm not going to skip this film. I've seen this film probably 30 plus times. It's just, like I said, in terms of the Friday the 13th franchise as a whole and my enjoyment of the movies, it's clear cut that over the last few years, I've realized that this is my least favorite one to return to. And this would be the final one that is in the Paramount series. So right now, in terms of when it came to all the way through part 8, all the films were released by Paramount, and this was the Paramount era of Friday the 13th, and a lot of people's favorite era of Friday the 13th. I know some people that really, really hate the New Line films. They don't like them. So this is kind of, like I said, the old school, the classic era. I love all this franchise. Like I said, I will go back and watch any one of them. But yeah, the Paramount era, this is the closing. This is the chapter, the ending one, and it is a somber, like, sad ending because, like I said, with the way this film ends in the third act, it's just not that good compared to, like I said, part 7, part 6, which we had some really good bangers, and then we had part 4 and then part 5, which is a cult classic that people just love now. This one kind of, like I said, ends the Paramount saga on a very somber note. Now we have Jason Goes to Hell, and the first one in the New Line saga. This one was called Jason Goes to Hell because New Line did not have the rights to the title of Friday the 13th. So already we're getting kind of messy because Friday the 13th, that franchise has been tied up in the court system for over a decade. And this is kind of, a little bit of the start of that stuff when they transitioned to New Line. We had Sean S. Cunningham taking his rights over there and, like I said, doing Jason films, but he couldn't use the Friday the 13th title. And this one has Adam Marcus coming in here to direct this film, one of the most out there Jason films. In terms of the franchise, I think this is the black sheep because it's the most unlike any other Friday the 13th film, but I absolutely adore this film. So as I said, Jason Goes to Hell is easily the most unusual one, as we have Jason Voorhees in here for the least amount of time in terms of a character on screen. He's literally killed off within the first 5 minutes of this film, and then it becomes a body hopping possession type movie, which is completely unlike any other Friday the 13th film we've had so far. And I love the gore in this one. This one has some amazing gore, and the kills in here are some of the best. There are literally 2 kills in this film that are some of the best that you've ever seen in the Friday the 13th franchise. Adam Marcus spares no expense, and it's really quite a feat that he got this accomplished because I think when he directed this film, he was in his early 20s, and this was the first ever feature-length film that he directed, and for being a young 20s male, director coming up in the game, getting your hands on a property like Friday the 13th, that's a big deal, and I think what he did was fantastic. Creighton Duke in here is one of the most charismatic, interesting characters we've ever had in the franchise. Then we have Stephen Freeman, who's one of my favorite protagonists. I think has some really funny lines in here. This one is one of those ones that I laugh at a lot. There's great comedy moments, there's great gore moments, and it's such a great refresher, especially when you're marathoning the franchise. I can tell you that right now because I've done 3 times in my life where I've marathoned every Friday the 13th film in a row, and this is such a refresher when you get to this film because when you're watching all 8 of those first Paramount ones in a row, it does become kind of taxing and bland when it comes to wash, rinse, repeat on the formula, and this one just comes out, swings for the fences, and doesn't really care what you think about it. And it's, to me, it's a fantastic, fabulous entry in the Friday the 13th franchise, and I love this one. I hope you all enjoyed this video as we talked about the transitional years, part 7, part 8, and part 9 of the Friday the 13th franchise. A very interesting group of 3, like I said, definitely interesting because they're different. It's the transitional period. We have the ending of the Paramount saga, then we go into New Line, and then blasting us with a completely new take on the Friday the 13th franchise. So very, very fun grouping of 3, and now we're going to be on to the last 3, so make sure you stay tuned to the channel, like, subscribe, all that jazz. I greatly appreciate it because it helps me fight the YouTube algorithm. That is a great battle that we are always fighting as YouTube content creators, so I awesomely appreciate all the support that you guys have on the channel. But like I said, we're going to be talking about the last 3. After this, we'll be talking about Jason X, Freddy vs. Jason, and the Friday the 13th remake coming up in the next video. But I hope you all enjoyed this one. And please shout out down below in the comment section, what are your feelings on part 7, part 8, and part 9 of the Friday the 13th franchise. But most importantly, y'all know what's up. Have a safe and happy day. Peace out.